All right, welcome back to the Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're here today because, well, we are looking at some massive fundamental changes coming to the world of retirement investing. I mean, it's a topic literally everyone is talking about right now. We're going to unpack a brand new executive order that promises to completely shake up how millions of Americans save for their future. So let's just dive right into this.
Is the government about to hand you a $1,000 retirement match? This is the exact question that has the entire financial world buzzing right now. That's right, we are talking about the potential for actual free money. An executive order was recently signed creating what's being called the Savers Match. And look, depending on your financial situation, it could easily be one of the most lucrative investment opportunities you'll see this entire decade.
Section 1. The 401k Access Problem. To really understand why this new proposal even exists, we have to look at a truly staggering number, 56 million. Right now, over 56 million Americans are essentially locked out of the traditional retirement system. Think about that. If you're a gig worker, a freelancer, or maybe you work for a small business that simply doesn't offer a corporate retirement plan, well, you're part of this massive group. You don't get those easy automated paycheck contributions, and you definitely don't get an employer match. Now, for those who might be a little newer to the terminology, let's quickly define what those 56 million people are actually missing out on. A traditional 401k is an employer-sponsored account where you contribute your pre-tax income. So, let's say you make $100,000 and you put in $10,000. The IRS only taxes you on $90,000 upfront. Your investments then grow tax-deferred for decades. It's a brilliant wealth-building tool for sure. But again, it only works if you actually have access to it in the first place.
Section 2. Enter the Trump IRA.
Okay, so to catch those 56 million workers slipping through the cracks, we really have to look at the timeline of how this solution is going to roll out, because this is going to directly impact your planning. The executive order was signed on April 30th. Now, fast forward to January 1st, 2027, and the official trapira.gov portal is scheduled to go live. Then, by 2028, after you've filed your 2027 tax returns, that's when the very first actual government matches are expected to arrive in qualified accounts. So what are you actually going to find on that portal in 2027? Well, it's designed to be a one-stop government-backed marketplace, but with really strict fee limits. The financial institutions featured on this platform, they are capped at charging a maximum of 0.15% per year in fees. When you consider that some private funds out there charge anywhere from 2 to 5% a year, which, by the way, absolutely eats your retirement alive, this 0.15% cap is just a fantastic standard to help shield everyday workers from getting ripped off.
Section 3. The free money catch.
Now, as with literally all things in finance, we gotta read the fine print. But first, here's the math behind the headline. The Savers Match means the federal government will literally deposit a dollar for dollar 50% match on the first $2,000 you contribute. That is a maximum of $1,000 of free money injected straight into your retirement account. Just think about that for a second. It's a guaranteed 50% return on your money before it's even been invested in the market. That is a truly incredible incentive.
But here comes the reality check. Who actually qualifies for this? Well, if your filing status is single, you only get that full $1,000 match if your income is $20,500 or less. The bonus then phases out entirely once you hit $35,500. If you're married and filing jointly, the full match is capped at an income of $41,000, and it phases out completely at $71,000.
And that brings us to the real catch here. Those income limits are so incredibly strict that we run into a major practical conflict. Let's be totally honest. An individual making $20,500 a year is very likely living paycheck to paycheck. So to get that full $1,000 match, that person has to figure out how to save and invest $2,000, which is roughly 10% of their entire gross income. That's an exceptionally difficult hurdle for the exact demographic this match is supposedly intended to help.
Section 4. Private investments and risks.
But this executive order isn't just about a new portal. It actually fundamentally alters everyday 401ks. Traditionally, 401ks are, well, they're pretty boring. They hold basic, broad index funds. But the new rules proposed here would allow 401ks to hold alternative investments. We are talking about opening the doors to private equity, private credit, real estate, and yes, even digital assets like cryptocurrency, right there inside your company retirement plan. So why do this? Well, the perspective coming straight from the White House is that this is all about leveling the playing field.
They argue that this move will democratize investing. I mean, for decades, elite institutions, pension funds, and billionaires have used private markets to generate some truly outrageous wealth. The argument here is simply that regular, everyday workers deserve access to that exact same wealth-building, diversification, and obviously the potentially stronger returns that come along with it.
On the flip side, though, we really have to look at the massive warnings coming from critics. The New York Times, for example, highlighted the concern that this could simply end up being a massive payday for Wall Street that could accidentally put millions of American retirement savings at risk. The big fear here is that everyday workers might just end up stuck with overly complicated, super expensive financial products that ultimately benefit the fund managers way more than the actual retirees. And there are very clear reasons why those critics are so worried. Unlike buying a transparent, highly liquid S&P 500 index fund, private assets are vastly different. They're much harder to accurately value on a day-to-day basis. They're significantly harder to sell quickly if you suddenly need the cash, and they generally come with much higher fees. Plus, there is a huge legal risk here for employers. Think about it. Companies could face massive fiduciary duty lawsuits if they offer private equity in a 401k, the fund tanks, and their employees lose their life savings.
Section 5. Trump IRA versus Roth IRA. Okay, to really equip you with the knowledge of how this new proposal stacks up against tools you can literally use right now, let's juxtapose these two paths. The ideal user for the future Trump IRA is basically a gig worker, a freelancer, or a solo entrepreneur making under $35,000 a year, whose primary goal is capturing that free government match. On the other hand, the ideal Roth IRA user is an investor, particularly a younger one, who wants decades of tax-free growth and doesn't want to be boxed in by those incredibly strict low-income limits.
And honestly, here is the absolute most important takeaway for your immediate financial health. You do not have to wait until the portal goes live in 2027. Anyone can open a Roth IRA right now, today, in about 5 minutes. You can contribute up to $7,500 a year using your after-tax dollars. If you're already in a relatively low tax bracket, paying your taxes now and letting that money grow totally tax-free is a tremendously smart move.
Let's actually see that math in action. Say a 20-year-old invests $7,500 a year until age 65. With a Roth IRA, they end up with nearly $2.5 million, and over $2 million of that is pure profit that they owe absolutely zero taxes on. Compare that to a traditional taxable account. Sure, they might have $3 million on paper, but they're going to owe ordinary income taxes on $2.5 million of profit. Personally, keeping $2.5 million completely tax-free is usually vastly superior to having $3 million that the IRS is just going to take a huge bite out of in retirement.
So we end with this question: which retirement path fits your future? Whether you're a freelancer hoping to snag that government match in 2027 or someone ready to open a Roth IRA today to lock in decades of tax-free growth, understanding these paths is absolutely key to taking control of your financial destiny. Take a moment to evaluate your income, look at your current plan, and decide how you want to build your wealth. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning, keep investing, and I will see you next time.